Forum of role of Waqf in supporting and financing higher education. His Highness Sayyid Haytham bin Tariq Al Said discusses with Minister of Media, Tourism and Heritage of Zanzibar Government the cooperation in heritage field and projects of restoration of House of Wonders. A ceremony is held for opening Hamasa border post in the governorate of Buremi to keep pace with active economic and social movement. And at a value of 400 million Omani Riyals, Nama Group signs purchasing contracts with local companies for supplying cables for electricity connections. Good evening once again, and thank you for joining us. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail. His Majesty Sultan Qaboos received a cable of thanks from His Excellency President Abdul Aziz Bouteflika of Algeria in reply to a cable of condolences on the victims of the military plane crash near the Algerian Boufarik airport. The Education Council held its second meeting of the year, chaired by His Excellency Sayyid Khalid bin Hilal bin Saud Al Busaidi, Minister of Diwan of the Royal Court, Chairman of the Council, with the presence of their Excellencies and members of the Council. The meeting reviewed updates and stages of the project of information system and indicators of education in the Sultanate of Oman, which will work on accelerating in collection of data, producing private indicators in the education sector in the Sultanate with its various kinds and levels, in addition to enhance supervision process on performance of education system. The Council also discussed the report prepared for qualifying teachers according to specific conditions in this aspect. It also reviewed the suggestions of the holding the role of Waqf in supporting higher education and financing it. His Highness Sayyid Haytham bin Tariq Al Said, Minister of Heritage and Culture, received His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud bin Thabit Kombo, Minister of Information, Tourism and Heritage of the Government of Zanzibar, who is visiting the Sultanate at the invitation of the Ministry of Heritage and Culture. During the meeting, they discussed a number of topics related to the cooperation in the field of heritage, particularly implementing a memorandum of understanding signed by both sides. They also reviewed the restoration project of the House of Wonders, Beit Al-Ajaib, after getting the required approvals from the UNESCO, considering the house among the landmarks that belongs to the Stone City registered in the World Heritage List. To enhance and develop cooperation in the field of records and archives, the Sultanate and Zanzibar signed a memorandum of understanding this morning. I was present at the event, and I have this report. A ceremony was held this morning at the National Records and Archives, where a memorandum of understanding in the fields of documents and archives between the Sultanate and the Government of Zanzibar took place. His Excellency Dr. Hamad bin Mohammed Al Dhawiyani, Chairman of the National Records and Archives Authority, signed on behalf of the Sultanate Government, while Dr. Mahmoud Thabit Kombo signed on behalf of the Zanzibari Government.
This signing ceremony was long awaited between Zanzibar and Oman, because our relationship go a long way back, and our relationship between Zanzibar and Oman was created by God subhanahu wa ta'ala, because the written history we have and the records and photographic records that we have between Oman and Zanzibar's history is almost 250 years old. But it goes beyond that. It goes beyond 1,000 years, the history, and that means we have a brotherly relationship between our two countries.
This MOU stems on the distinguished historical relations between the Sultanate of Oman and the Republic of Tanzania, and is part of the desire of both countries to enhance cooperation between them.
It's one of the very important agreements that we are here to sign today. It's about exchanging of information, archival information, and national records between Oman and Zanzibar. As you know, Zanzibar at some point used to be the capital city of Oman, so there were many records, for over 250 years old records that we have in Zanzibar.
The MOU comprised the process of preserving and restoring all documentary stocks in Zanzibar in the archives and converting them from paper documents to digital, and facilitate for the exchange of copies of documents and manuscripts relating to the historical relations between Zanzibar and Oman.
هذه مذكرة التفاهم تتناول موضوعات عدة منها.
The Sultanate will also provide Zanzibar with the required tools and appropriate technology to develop the technical capabilities of digital preservation. The government of Zanzibar will copy the documents of the heritage and manuscripts and will exchange copies of the documentary and manuscripts in accordance with the provisions of the memorandum concerning the historical relations between the Zanzibar and Oman, which will be owned and used in accordance with the provisions of the memorandum of understanding, which will allow its use for scientific and research purposes, including educational exhibitions in Oman and abroad. A ceremony was held for the opening of Hamasa border post in the Wilaya of Buremi. It came to keep pace with active economic movement being witnessed by the government of Buremi, the governorate of Buremi. The opening of this border post also came to facilitate movement of travelers to and from the governorate. It also will enhance security services provided by Royal Oman Police. The inauguration ceremony was presided over by His Excellency Engineer Under Secretary of the Ministry of Interior, who toured all buildings and facilities of Hamasa border post. It was equipped with all required equipment and technology to render best services to citizens and visitors. At a value of 400 million Omani Riyals, the Naman Group signed 3 agreements with companies which manufacturing cables and electric connections. The agreements were signed at the inauguration ceremony of Oman Energy and Water Exhibition and Conference, which started today at Oman Convention and Conference Center under the title Smart Management of Energy and Water Systems. More than 150 Arab and international companies participated in this event. The 3-day event aims at strengthen the efforts of the electricity, water and wastewater sectors in the Sultanate. The conference and exhibitions are organized by the Public Authority for Electricity and Water in cooperation with Oman Expo. The opening ceremony was presided over by His Highness Sayyid Taimur bin Asad Al Saeed, Assistant Secretary General for Communications at the Research Council. Media policy in the Sultanate is stable and directions are given to public and private sector establishments to interact with citizens through their media platforms. That was affirmed by His Excellency Dr. Abdul Mun'im bin Mansour Al-Hsani, Minister of Information, before the Shura Council. The members of the Shura Council discussed the importance of addressing salaries issues for media personnel and benefiting from local media experts in Media Training Center, for which a royal order was issued recently. The Minister of Information stated that the global media platforms which have falsified some parts of the Omani history are not credible, urging media establishments to stand firm against such misconduct. He as well added that Oman News Agency is the official source of news in Oman, considering it the voice of Oman internally and externally. Discussions of the Shura Council members with the Minister of Information revealed that a number of government establishments are not interacting with citizens through their e-accounts. The session called upon the Minister of Information to offer more support to newspapers and pay due attention to local news. Information Technology Authority ITA reviewed before the State Council today that the National Strategy for Oman Digital Community and E-Government Oman Digital. Dr. Salim bin Sultan Al-Rizaiqi, Chief Executive Officer of ITA, stressed that the strategy formed in transforming the Sultanate into a sustainable knowledge society through activation of information technology and telecommunication, aiming to enhance government services and enrich business sector, in addition to enable individuals to deal with digital world. He also pointed out that the government and private institutions have witnessed progress in the digital information infrastructure, which resulted in a number of electronic services and digital companies, adding that this strategy will give an opportunity for trending towards producing clean, renewable energy and using a technique of 3D printing in addition to changing patterns of transportation and logistics. You are watching the Sultanate of Oman television, and yet to come in our news bulletin. Public Authority for Radio and Television wins prizes at the 19th Arab Radio and Television Festival being held in Tunisia. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo met Jordan's King Abdullah II in Amman today. Earlier, he met his Jordanian counterpart Ayman Safadi. During a joint news conference, Pompeo said a resolution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflicts remains a priority for the Trump administration, even if it doesn't agree it's the main cause of Middle East instability. He declined to criticize Israel for its actions in dealing with mass Palestinian protests along the Gaza border over the past month. Pompeo did not meet any Palestinian representatives during a two-day visit to Israel and Jordan. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe today praised the long relations his energy-hungry nation has had with the United Arab Emirates, a crucial oil supplier, at the start of a Middle East tour. Abe appeared briefly at the Japan-United Arab Emirates Business Forum in the Emirati capital of Abu Dhabi, at one point even praising Japanese fruit for sale. But produce and interpersonal communications are far from the most important business relations Japan has with the United Arab Emirates. About a quarter of all oil imports for Japan come from the United Arab Emirates. After Abu Dhabi, Abe will travel to Jordan, Israel and the Palestinian territories. Before leaving Japan, Abe told journalists Middle East peace was a priority on his trip. Members of the United Nations Security Council team probing Myanmar crisis over its ethnic Rohingya Muslims minority have arrived in the country's capital after a visit to Bangladesh, where about 700,000 Rohingya who fled violence live in refugee camps. The United Nations delegations will meet the country's top leader, State Councillor Aung San Suu Kyi, and Military Commander Senior General Min Aung Hlaing before traveling to northern Rakhine State, the area from which the Rohingya fled. They are expected to see the aftermath of the army's crackdown, as well as the government's preparations for taking back the refugees from Bangladesh. The army launched counter-insurgencies sweeps in Rakhine after attacks last August on security personnel. Speaking to journalists in Yangon, the executive director of Human Rights Watch, Kenneth Roth, said he believed the Security Council should refer the violations to the International Criminal Court.
Were clearly of the gravity and severity that they warrant.
And now to London. British Prime Minister Theresa May has named Sajid Javid as Britain's new Interior Minister after the previous ministers resigned amid an immigration scandal. Javid, Britain's former Communities Secretary, is the first minority politician to hold one of Britain's 4 top government jobs. Home Secretary Amber Rudd resigned yesterday, saying she had inadvertently misled lawmakers about whether the government had deportation targets. The furor began when the Guardian newspaper reported that some people who came to the UK from the Caribbean after World War II had recently been refused medical care in Britain or threatened with deportation because they could not produce paperwork proving their right to live in Britain. Back to some local news. In order to encourage the usage of modern agriculture patterns, the activities of regional training workshop Good Agricultural Practice for Producing Safe and Healthy Food kicked off in Muscat today. The workshop is presented in cooperation with the International Center for Agriculture Research in the dry areas Ikarda, with the participation of bodies concerned from Gulf countries and Yemen. The workshop included a number of work papers which reviewed modern agriculture applications to reduce negative effects resulting from improper farming practices like excessive use of fertilizer and pesticide. The ceremony was held by Muscat Security Market to grant a Disclosure Quality Award to a number of public joint stock companies listed at market. The award came to honor companies and encourage them to implement the systems and principles stipulated in the capital market law. The ceremony was presided over by His Excellency Abdul Salam bin Mohammed Al Morshidi, Chief Executive Officer of State General Reserve Fund. Discussing means of improving health cooperation spheres between the Sultanate and Sudan, top discussions of His Excellency Dr. Ahmed bin Mohammed Al-Saidi, Minister of Health, meeting with His Excellency Dr. Bahar Idris Al-Qasim, Sudanese Federal Minister of Health. The meeting reviewed mechanisms of exchanging expertise in health fields between the two countries, in addition to exchanging cordial talks. His Excellency Dr. Ahmed bin Mohammed Al-Saidi, Minister of Health, received His Excellency Dr. Hussein bin Abdul Razzaq Al-Jazairi, former Regional Director of the World Health Organization Eastern Mediterranean Office, who is currently visiting the Sultanate on the sideline of the 19th Arab Hospitals Federation. During the meeting, they exchanged cordial talks and discussed issues with mutual concern. They as well reviewed cooperation aspects with regards to Arab joint health work. Supported by the National Training Fund, Oman Post signed a memorandum of understanding to train a number of job seekers in various fields. The trainees will go through the Development and Innovation Program Bina, which is expected to build high-caliber national cadres. More details in the following report by Saleh bin Khalfan Al-Rahbi.
To motivate the national cadres and empower them to undertake their responsibilities towards contributing to the building process of the country, Oman Post signed a memorandum of understanding with the Global Institute of Management and Technology in order to implement the Development and Innovation Program BINA to train 15 job seekers as a first stage.
It's a very rigorous program that hopefully by end of it we will get polished, established Omani calibers at a very high level that can contribute in the development and transformation of the post. Of course, the program is also contributing to the 25,000 jobs project that the government is embarking in today.
The National Training Fund supports this program, which will continue for a period of a year, aimed at providing job opportunities. The program also includes training and preparation in addition to improving the skills which will enable those enrolled in the program to engage in the future job market without difficulties.
We're doing this program specifically for Oman Post to do a transformational leadership program to transform their company from the traditional way to the e-commerce world of today. We need change leaders, and this is the program where we're skilling the change leaders for have a transformational mindset to do a lean sort of process, to look after the transformation and skill them accordingly.
The program comes from Oman's post keenness to contribute in preparing national cadres and provide job opportunities in the fields of logistics, change management, e-commerce, and project management. For the Sultanate of Oman Television English News, صالح بن خلفان الرحبي, مسقط.
Transformational mindset there, focusing on the necessity of dealing with responsible of family and women issues. Works of training program about building workers' abilities in the Directorate of Women Affairs and Directorate of Family Development of the Governorate was inaugurated. The program, which was organized by the Minister of Social Development in cooperation with Nations Fund for Residents, aimed to qualify, train and improve skills of employees and workers in the Directorates of Social Development in the fields of analyzing social cases. The three-day training program introduced participants to strategic goals of the Directorate of Women Affairs and the Minister of Social Development and means of women empowerment in the field of employment and matching these with international standards. The Public Authority for Radio and Television won some prizes at Arab Radio and Television Festival in its 19th round in Tunisia. Sultanate of Oman Television achieved the first prize for the program Week as file, while Sultanate of Oman Radio won the first prize for the program Out of the Box, which also achieved Radio Creativity Award in the fields of preparation and presenting the documentary film Our Praise in Zanzibar won the Best Production Prize. Of course, we congratulate one and all. Amid wide participation of innovators from various schools around the Sultanate, the activities of student scientific innovation exhibitions and robot and artificial intelligence competitions inaugurated at the level of the Sultanate. The exhibition, which included hundreds of various scientific projects, reveals clear positive indicators in the field of innovation and research through projects showcased by students. The exhibition included 4 various pavilions. The first pavilion included 68 innovation projects. The second both included robot competitions, which 55 teams competed. The Pavilion Petroleum Development Oman Companies Award for Renewable Energy included 17 various innovation, and the Environmental Fourth booth included students, researchers for a Globe 24 program related to gathering data by students in challenges faced Omani environment. The mechanisms of evaluating competitive works will be with participation of specialists and academics from various bodies, with 3 referees per contest and according to 5 aspects, namely questions of the research, designing of projects, implementation, creativity, poster and interview. And now in Shemukh, a ceremony was held there at the Shemukh School for the graduation of the first batch of its students for the 2018. It's one of the schools that aims to raise the education levels of its students through a well-qualified educational cadres and internationally accredited programs. The school had achieved a number of prizes at the level of private schools in the fields of innovation and Holy Quran memorization competition. The event was held under the auspices of His Excellency Dr. Abdullah bin Muhammad Al-Sarmi, Under-Secretary of the Ministry of Higher Education. In recognition of teachers' role, Raising Generation Directorate General of Education in the Governorate of South Al-Batin honored 250 male and female teachers and a number of administrators and technicians on the occasion of the Teachers' Day. The honoring ceremony was held at the College of Education in Rustaq under the patronage of His Excellency Yusuf bin Alawi bin Abdullah, Minister responsible for Foreign Affairs. And now for the general weather forecast around the Sultanate. Clear skies will prevail over the Sultanate with chances of low clouds and fog late at night and early morning over the Governorate of South Sharqiya, Dhafar and Al-Wusta. Winds will be northwesterly light to moderate. Seas will be slight with a maximum wave height of 1 meter. This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. The Education Council discusses the project of education indicators preparing teachers' programs and suggestions of holding forum of role of Waqf in supporting and financing higher education. His Highness Sayyid Haytham bin Tariq Al Saeed discusses with Minister of Media, Tourism and Heritage of Zanzibar Government the cooperation in heritage field and project of restorations of House of Wonders. A ceremony is held for opening Hamasa border post in the Governorate of Buremi to keep pace with active economic social movement. And at a value of 400 million Omani Riyals, Nama Group signs purchasing contracts with local companies for supplying cables of electricity connections. With that, we do conclude this news bulletin. We do thank you all for joining us. Wish you a pleasant evening and once again, good night.